All right. So I'll be priming you guys on some essential cybersecurity practices. Um, so first I'll be starting with, the weakest point in systems, why updates are even necessary, and what two-factor authentication is and why it's important, and some cyber attacks. So let's get into it. So first of all, can you guys tell me what the weakest link is in a computer system? Feel free to turn your mic or message in the chat. Yeah, I just wanted you guys to tell me. All right, any takers?
The weakest link? What do you mean by
Yeah.
weakest link?
Like in a computer system, what's the weakest connect part? Passwords? Humans? Yeah, Micah is actually correct. So in a computer system, humans are the weakest link.
Indeed, that's one.
Repeat?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So humans are the weakest link because no matter how strong you make your system, no matter how encrypted or such you do, if you have someone that's actually making a mistake, say you give away your password or you give you sensitive details, you be compromising yourself in the system. We'll try to protect you, but if you expose yourself, well, that's kind of on you. So how do you get around that? Well, the cybersecurity lead for a community society actually made a really good statement that a hacker's greatest ability is to like communicate and cipher information, not just sitting around his computer trying to find a vulnerability. So like, attacks like phishing, social engineering, you is actually undergoing a major phishing attack right now. And as you can see, the more emails you're getting, you can notice that a lot of you are actually affected by this. So the weakest link are humans. So now get to like updates. So why are they even important? Could you give me like a few examples, one? Or it's a discussion type scenario.
Why updates are important?
Yeah, why you need to update your software occasionally.
To keep up to date with the new technology, new forms of security and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Solve vulnerabilities, current software. Yeah, exactly. Keep update and such. The reason why is because updates are there to help you. As annoying as they can be, such as Windows like use update like every other week or so. There are often different types of vulnerabilities like 0 days and even simple exploits that can actually compromise you, your data, and such. And that's why updates are necessary. Frequent updates are necessary to ensure that vulnerabilities are patched as soon as possible, data breaches are prevented, and such. And that leads into two-factor authentication. Like we know that we are the main reason why some systems aren't could be vulnerable, and two-factor authentication updates are means to actually help to protect us. So even though two-factor authentication like seems like a pain setup, you have to go to your phone every time to actually enter that code. It's actually really useful because it takes a very long time for a hacker or someone seeking to like get your data to actually compromise your accounts if one they have a password but they don't have your device to actually get the OTP code or such. So now we covered like some core concepts to protect yourself and stuff. So now I'll be showing you like a few demos on like two very simple web attacks, but they're actually extremely widespread. They're called cross-site reference forgery and cross-site scripting. And then I'll be just giving you a wrong tab. Oops. Yeah. So starting with cross-site reference forgery. This is so weird. Okay. So yeah, cross-site scripting, because this one is actually pretty easy to actually carry out, and you'd be surprised the damage it can cause. So they decide that Google made to actually train persons in mitigating and identifying cross-site scripting attacks. So cross-site scripting attacks essentially is just injecting JavaScript into a web page due to like say dangerous HTML or you don't execute your tags. So I'll be demonstrating an example right here. So you see like there's an instant form field right here. You wouldn't expect that, hey, if you enter some code, it would execute. But that's where you're wrong. This is a simple example on what could happen. say I can run JavaScript here. So some matches have actually run JavaScript in some form view, and it could be used. This approach is used to actually compromise the user from the website and not actually use their actions. So yeah, so this is one example. This is called a DOM, cross-site reference, no, cross-site scripting attack, where you actually manipulate a DOM to make a request and such like that. Then we have another type where we can actually modify, say, a HTML attribute. In this case, I'll be modifying an image tag, and this type of attack, it actually gets stored on the database for the server. So as you can see, this is blog post. If I say hi, this actually gets stored in some database somewhere. But if I look at the code, it's actually stored very dangerously. So if I store some JavaScript here and execute it, every time I run this app, this web page, it actually repeatedly execute that code. So I'll be showing you an example on how that could be done. Say I have an innocent like image tag equals text.com, and then I have my on air attribute, which allows me to execute some JavaScript. And then the same alert example, one. I can actually do another alert just from executing the image tag. So there are two, if you're not actually escaping your characters and such, you can actually introduce vulnerabilities to users and app will be compromised. And the last version is actually through the URL. So I'll be showing you the code for this one. But basically, if you look at this, each image, it adjusts the URL. But although it seems innocent, let's take a look at the code. So as you can see here, each image is actually just taking a number for each, that corresponds to each tab. And then instead of actually parsing integer or actually escaping a character, we just pass it straight in, right? So if I were to just modify the URL right here to say have some JavaScript, similar to last example. So that's because this renders the image right here, along with number. So space to modify the image tag on air equals JavaScript alert one, and then close the image tag. Yeah, I could actually execute more JavaScript through the browser. There are just three ways to actually execute cross-site scripting attacks. And to mitigate them, I'll be touching on that after I touch on cross-site reference forgery. So I'll be showing you the other attack now, which is cross-site reference forgery, which is geared towards actually making the user complete a certain action and then triggering the action from another website to compromise the data. So say I have a bank application or I want to send some money to my friend. So I create an account, say I'm Bob, and password is test. So innocent as it seems, I can just send money to my account. So I'm making a transfer to say my friend John, let's say $500 or $600. So this is who I know as John. I don't know a thing about web attacks or such. And I see an email saying, hey, click this button and you get some money, right? Granted, us as computer students, we'd know that we wouldn't click unnecessary buttons, but not everyone would know that. So I fall for a money scam, right? I click this button on a site that has no correlation to my banking application. And when I check my bank application, I've seen that $1,000 has left, well, $10,000 left my account somehow, when these two sites have no correlation. And it does this through actually taking a look at, well, sending a request for that site using your session cookie. And a cookie is just some token that you use to like authenticate yourself and make sure you know who you are. So I'll just be touching on how we can mitigate those attacks. But first, did I lose anyone? Because that was a lot of information very fast.
No, you're good.
All right. So yeah. So how can we prevent them? So first of all, for cross-site, oh geez. Yeah, for cross-site reference forgery. So some key things. One, you have to ensure they always log out of your sensitive applications, especially bank applications, because usually when you log out, your web application would usually destroy your cookie or your token that you use to authenticate yourself. Moreover, as a developer, when we're designing applications to protect them users against cross-site reference forgery, we want to always dynamically generate our cookies and also ensure that we have a CSRF token, right? Because the CSRF token would actually communicate with the front end and the back end and ensure that, hey, the user is who they are, and so that an outside user can't actually be making requests on their behalf. The last thing, don't save your passwords to the browser, because as you saw, although I didn't save my password on that site, it did prompt me immediately to save my password. And that's another way users, I mean, someone seemed to exploit you, can actually try to retrieve your password from the session storage and stuff. So as for cross-site scripting, always filter your input. This is more on developers' behalf, as an attacker would try to manipulate the web application to execute JavaScript. So as a developer, some key practices you have to do is always filtering, sanitizing, and just ensuring that your data isn't capable of sending malicious JavaScript. So a lot of front-end frameworks these days, they also do this for you. But say you're just working vanilla JavaScript, you want to ensure that your data is sanitized and such. The next thing is encoding your data on output. So you want to ensure that the data being outputted also is capable of executing JavaScript. Moreover, you want to set the content security policy header. That's just an extra step in preventing cross-site scripting attacks. And last thing is using appropriate response headers. And that's just setting appropriate fields in your response so that you don't actually send malicious stuff. Well, allow hackers to send malicious stuff. So that would essentially conclude our brief workshop. So any questions or anything you guys want to discuss?
I just have one concern. If you
Yeah.
don't save your passwords to your browser,
Mhm.
like most of us who use one website to do one single thing or have hundreds of them, and each of them requires a unique password, how you remember all of them?
That's where password manager comes into play. Because
Yeah, but what's the difference between the password manager and saving into the browser? Are they doing the same thing?
well, they're different because the password manager isn't actually using the browser's native APIs to actually for your passwords and such. One second.
I was going to say, it's good to have good sanitization and validation on both front end and back end level.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
the same.
although it may seem redundant, it's better to be redundant than and at least you have some security while being redundant with code.
Yeah, it's essential to always sanitize input the back end and front end because front end validation can be disabled, but you can't really disable server-side validation as easily. So I agree. Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm. Yeah, that would actually conclude today's workshop. Actually, wanted it to stay a bit short. So yeah, we can continue playing Hacker if you guys want, because we have some more questions. So let me just share that really quick. 1 second. All right, let me just get this back up. So yeah, we're back to this. So same question. Actually, yeah, that would actually conclude today's workshop. So thanks for coming, guys.
That's it. We're done already.
Okay.
As
Yeah.
I'm saying, I was there already.
Yeah, it was pretty short actually.
Well, I learned a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, myself. And I was going to say too, another thing that we could probably do in terms of security, at the algorithmic level is
Mm-hmm.
to choose the appropriate architectural pattern when we are creating systems. So for example, like you have different patterns like repository pattern and layered patterns.
Yeah, that's true.
So like the layered patterns, it tends to be more secure. You can't move to another layer without being properly authenticated for the above layers. So architectural pattern is a good way to when we engineer in our systems.
That's so true. Because you need to segregate each segment of a system in order to protect respective areas. Yeah. I'll
Right.
see a raised hand.
Hi, that's me. Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to ask a question. In your opinion, what do you think are the major challenges to society with regards to cybersecurity? I know social engineering would be one of those because that's inclusive of phishing attacks, etc., as well as that it could be a possible violation of human rights and freedoms because of the access to data. But I just wanted to know, what do you think are some cybersecurity challenges that we face in our society today?
All right. So I would say the primary challenge would be the human aspect because well, human aspect and awareness, because the average person outside of tech isn't as aware of these attacks. They aren't aware of phishing or online scams as much. So awareness is a thing that's been trying to be solved in cybersecurity, which is why we actually try to have Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October and celebrate it. And that's the purpose of this workshop as well. Just to spread awareness of cybersecurity and the potential vulnerabilities. From a technical point of view, it also falls under that because use updates are pushed out by developers and users need to update them. But yeah.
Thank you.
I was going to speak.
Yeah, no problem.
Just to add to what Jason was saying, that also, because, many of us young developers, we're not aware of all of this stuff. And another thing is, also money, because if I want to build an app, right, I might be aware that there can be things I do know and I don't know with regards to cybersecurity. So I might know how to secure my app in terms of, cross-site scripting and cross-site forgery. But then again, if I'm going to build apples, other people to use, data is important. And, because I'm not fully aware of every single thing to an expert level, right? Somebody who knows how to hack something might say, I'm going to break this app and I'm going to pull all data from it. And, if you're building a serious app, you might need money to hire somebody, right? So that's another thing that I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I agree.
I also think maybe we could invent our own protocols. Maybe this is for the more technical users of systems. But if I think about it, all these times, people using systems, we are sticking with common trends, and nothing is wrong with common trends, right? Because we need common trends at least as a starting point to do something. But I think some of the problems that that exist in cybersecurity can be resolved if we kind of step away from some of these common trends. We can take elements from them, but maybe we can invent our own protocol. I know it's easier said than done, but we all come back to awareness, and it comes into really investing more time and trying to at least invent something invent some protocol that's not existing as yet, but maybe similar and probably even more efficient.
When
But that will
actually,
take time. Oh yeah.
yeah, good to actually establish a protocol to ensure user data are secure.
Yeah.
Well, as it relates to data, I know the GDPR, I think it's General Data Protection Group. I may have got an acronym wrong. Yeah, but
Right. I know that.
that's
I know what you mean. Mhm.
yeah, regulation. So it's been pretty big lately, and it's been allowing well, making sure that developers actually design their applications so that users' data isn't actually being used without their consent, and actually they always opt in for having the data collected and such. So yeah, establishing a protocol would definitely be a good step towards that. And I'm sure there are quite a lot of governing bodies that want to go towards that direction as well.
Right. And I think AI, can really play a part in that. Just roughly thinking, because whenever, like, let's say there's a breach in a system, I think persons kind of concentrate. Not most persons, but some bodies or some person may kind of concentrate their efforts on preventing breach. But
Mhm.
what about when there's a breach? I mean, the responsiveness of handling that breach, mitigating the breach, and what I think AI could probably play a role in that. What if we have, persons always kind of promote this principle of defensive programming. What if we could, right? So like it responds, it reacts, reactory programming. So it reacts to
Change.
some breach or something, right?
Yeah.
So that was something I was thinking along as well.
That would actually be a pretty good project idea, actually. Even if it exists already, it'd be pretty fun to actually attempt. Like
Yeah.
to predict threats and also to mitigate them. I know there are some tools that like they analyze the code. They're called static code analysis tools. So they analyze the code for like vulnerabilities. I know one's called deep scan. It checks JavaScript for like vulnerable JavaScript, dangerous set HTML, the usual stuff. So there are tools that help with that, and it would actually be really a really good project idea to actually work on implementing one, especially with AI. And since it's growing so
Right.
much now.
Right. So true. Because let's say there is a breach or there is some successful intrusion into a system, then at least have a logic in the program to handle that. So similar to having that static code analysis that you mentioned that would validate the code. But to augment that, the static analysis, I guess, that could augment the function of actually responding, having some logic in the code to really handle the thing when it happens. Because validating it, that would be beforehand, right? Because you have your code, you write it, but you don't know what attacks we may get from those bad actors, right? So should one of those attacks intrude, the system, having code to really fight against that or respond a certain way, you know, um, I think AI would really play a good part in that. It's something I'm interested in. Yeah, I'm actually passionate about it. It's just that I haven't gotten the chance to really spend and invest more time in it. But I think that could probably change the game a bit and maybe even open more more doors for even new protocols that we can employ not only at the technical user level, because once you have something emerging, you can get a lot of things from it. You can get things from non-technical users as well. So something along that line I'm thinking too.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely be a good idea to try. All right, so thanks again for coming, guys. So the video, well, this will be up on like the department's YouTube channel. If you want to join a bit late. But yeah, it was good seeing everyone today.
Thanks for joining, peeps.
All right, thanks for the session. Take care.
All right, see you guys.